There's almost 8 billion people on Earth, and yet most of us still struggle to find even 10 good friends. My question is why? And what can we do about it? Like, how do we actually make friends and maintain them? And as someone who's pretty extroverted, meaning I get most of my energy from being with people, I find it absolutely crucial for me to have a lot of good friends. From using apps to going to random events, it was a trial and error process to find friends. But I ultimately found what worked for me. But first, let's answer the question,
Why? Why is it hard to make friends?
It's hard to make friends because all the adults don't really want to put in effort to meet up. They also rather hang out with people they already know than make new friends.
It's interesting because it's something that so many people are bothered by, and yet it's not really heavily prioritized in our day-to-day lives. Like, if you think about it, within the 24 hours we have in a day, we actually don't really have a lot of time to dedicate to friendships. Whether that's prioritizing our health with a morning routine and going to the gym, or going to our 9-to-5 job to pay our bills. It really doesn't give us enough time to make an effort to connect with people. And that's why it's inevitably just harder and harder to make friends as you get older, because our responsibilities start piling up. So what do people resort to? Apps. Whether that's dating apps, whether that's friendship apps. We feel the sense of emptiness or loneliness, but we're too, quote unquote, busy to make time to go out. So we resort to whatever we can do on our digital device at home. So let me share my story of my experience with Bumble BFF. There are a lot of problems with the app, but let's talk about the positives first. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that it can be a good opportunity to meet a lot of cool people. I have personally been on and off on the app and, well, finally deleted it, spoiler alert. But when I did use it on and off, I definitely did get the opportunity to connect with a lot of people and also just, go to a cafe and hang out. Like, I've had those hangouts before with actually a lot of cool people. So personally for me, the problem with apps like that is not necessarily due to the lack of ability to meet a lot of people, but rather it's the lack of maintaining those friendships. Just because once you have that hangout, it's what's next and who initiates. I think if a hangout goes well, that's great, but I guess it just needs to feel organic, and personally from my experience, that has been lacking a lot. So I think long story short, Bumble BFF is a great way to, meet people, but I think where the app is lacking is being able to help people form meaningful connections. And that's really hard to do with an app, right? It requires a lot of manual work, but I think with apps like this, you're just meeting people for the sake of meeting people, but it doesn't do a good job of connecting like-minded people with similar interests. But we're not screwed. The story is not over. As a matter of fact, it's just the beginning. Also, I don't know why I'm holding my mic like this. It looks like I'm praying for good friendships. Here are my tips on finding good quality friendships. Okay, so the first one is just more internal, but I think it's super, super, super important. It's to be intentional. Be intentional with who you surround yourself with. And the only way you can really be intentional is to first really understand who you are. It requires a lot of deep work, because if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what you want? If you don't know what you want, you're not attracting the right crowd. And this for me took a lot of time and self-awareness to get to this point where I think I'm finally getting it. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand what it means to be intentional, because when you are more intentional, you're also able to know when to say no to certain people, to certain hangouts, and have these clear boundaries for yourself. A good way to also learn to be intentional is really to listen to your body. When you are with a certain person, how does your body feel? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like you want to leave? you want to peace out of the hangout, because that's probably a sign that that person is not good for you. You know, this is something that I actually saw on someone's TikTok or Instagram story, and it really stuck out to me. You know when someone is the right person in your life when they bring the inner child out of you. And that really stuck with me, because when someone is able to bring the inner child out of you, that means you're able to truly be yourself, truly be who you are, and it is an indication that you are really comfortable around them. And those are the best people to have in your life. And they give you light, they give you energy. And this just like takes a lot of practice. But once you kind of get the hang of it, you know, it becomes a lot easier. Make sure that you hang out with people who don't make you feel bad. So I would suggest like really trying to understand, what do you look for in a friendship? Because that can be different for everyone. What someone else looks for may not be the same thing that you look for. So I would maybe just like write it down, do some journaling. This is not like an overnight type of situation. I think it takes a lot of trial and error as well. And it's kind of like a romantic relationship. You think you wanted something, and then once you start dating that person who has that and you don't like it, then you can peace out, you know, and move on. So, and that's okay too, you know. As you change, what you want will also change. So let's talk about more practical tips as well. This is kind of like one of the main things that I really want to say in this video, is you have to find a commonality, like a common interest that gives you a reason and an excuse to meet that person consistently. So what I was saying before with Bumble BFF, where, you know, it's like a one-time situation, right? You go to a cute cafe, you get brunch, you take your cute little pictures, post them on Instagram story, it's cool, and then now you're Instagram friends, and then now what? We don't want that. I mean, that's fine, like that's fine to have. But if you want like close friendships, that's not the way to go, right? Because the more you see someone, the more you can get closer to them, the more conversations you can have, and then you get more and more comfortable with them. And, you know, these shared experiences over and over again are what, you know, develops a close friendship. And so I feel like this can really be done through like, you know, like joining different organizations or different clubs, like a dance club or an arts and crafts, poetry, like whatever you're interested in. So this is also a good time to do deep work on that as well, is really understanding like what are you interested in or what are you curious about. Like maybe you never got into pottery, but you're interested. So you can join, like, I don't know honestly if there's like a pottery club, but if there's like a class or something where you can go on a weekly basis, and then there's at least going to be a few people who, you know, take that class every week. And that's a really, really good way to, you know, meet the same people over and over again through that shared experience, that shared interest of doing pottery together. That's a close friend right there. That's an opportunity. And that's really what's more organic, right? Versus like,
oh man, like, I don't know, like, should I reach out to them? But, like, why should I, you know? Like, we haven't talked in, like, a while. Like, it's like, awkward. I can't do that anymore.
But let's say that you don't have some sort of clubs or, you know, different classes that are in your city. Maybe there's not a lot of good ones. Then what can you do? I would say create one. If you can't find a community, build one. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but like I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and really try to build a community on your own. That is really kind of my motto, is like, if I don't have a community, I will make one. I'm not gonna lie, that has been the best way for me to make friends. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned with friendships is needing the sense of community. So I guess this is the time where I can do a shameless plug and talk about my community. But I'm just trying to give you an example, okay? I'm trying to give you some practical tips so that you can feel empowered to create your own community. So, you know, throughout this video, I've talked a little bit about my opinion on Bumble BFF. So I tried to really understand, like, where apps like Bumble BFF are lacking. And through that, I decided to kind of build my own community that helps to fill the gaps that, apps like Bumble BFF can't. I created a community called Strawberry Matcha. And the way I see it is like a Strawberry Matcha is like a meaningful friend. It's hard to find, but when you do find one, it's really special. A Strawberry Matcha is very special, like a meaningful friend. So anyways, that's kind of how I came up with the name. So maybe like start thinking about what your community name is going to be. And obviously this is going to be something that you're interested in. Like try to make it a bit personal. It can even be about kitties. Like if you like kitties, then it could be kitty club. And then from there you can start planning like, what are you hoping to get out of this community? How do you want it to be structured and formatted? So for me, the idea behind Strawberry Matcha is people fill a kind of like a quick 5-minute sort of situation questionnaire. And based on your answers to that questionnaire, you'll get matched into like a 4 or 5 person group based on compatibility, similar interests, certain keywords that I look for in your answers to the questionnaire. So one important question in the questionnaire is, what does your perfect day look like? It just gives you a good sense of their interests a little bit more than what Bumble BFF can do with just like simple tags like, oh, bars and clubbing or knitting, you know? And with questions like that, you can get a better sense of like how they talk in a way. I know that sounds weird, but it's like when someone is like very wordy, like I've had some people in the questionnaire literally write me a freaking essay, okay? And then the next step to building a community would be to kind of put it out there, like market it, let people know. There's a lot of ways you can do this. So I actually never really used meetup.com. But you guys probably know what that is. It's quite popular. But the thing is, I thought it was very outdated, like Facebook. And I thought like only the older generation uses it. So that's why I never really used it. But I don't know, for some reason, I decided to kind of post about it on there. I don't know why. So this community brand literally launched a week ago. Like I hosted my first matcha meetup last week through Meetup. And let me tell you, over 100 people signed up. So Yo Girl was a little overwhelmed. Like I was happy, but I was overwhelmed at the same time because I'm like, oh shoot, like I should have capped it because how are you gonna fit 100 people at a cafe? And so my plan initially was like just get our matcha at a cafe and then like meet outside, like just have a hangout. Like we can go to Central Park and like do picnic style. And that way it's a little bit easier to manage, right? 100 people. But that day it was raining. So unfortunately I felt bad because like I had to like cap it and I had to like tell a lot of people that they can make it. So anyways, like don't make that mistake that I did. Like make sure that you cap it. Make sure you understand like where the destination is. And then from there you can kind of understand like the capacity, right? You can like cap it. So if it's like 20, make sure you cap it at 20 people on Meetup. But what was really cool was that once I did end up capping it on Meetup, I actually still got a lot of people to DM me asking me if they can come to my meetup. They're like, hey, like I noticed that I couldn't register anymore. I guess it's like filled up, but is there any way that I can go? And that made me happy because people are resonating with it. Like they really like the idea. They think it's cute, Strawberry Matcha, it's memorable. But second, it made me realize that there's so many people looking for community like me. And if you're watching this video, you're probably feeling the same way and you're not alone. Like, and obviously I don't need to tell you that for you to believe it. You can see that, right? You can see so many people signing up for Strawberry Matcha. So I can really safely say that it's been 1 week, just 1 week since I've launched this community brand. And I have over 240 signups for Strawberry Matcha so far, and it has just begun. So it just gives me so much like validation in a way. Like it gives me a lot of gratitude, joy, fulfillment, because like I said, I really love connecting people together and creating this sense of community here in New York. I think a lot of us in New York really need it. It's so easy to meet people here. At least, like, if you're an extrovert, I guess it's a lot easier because you go to parties and stuff. But it doesn't make it any easier for us, like, people like us who are extroverts, to have these, like, meaningful, close friendships. And so I really think that's only achieved through the sense of community and repetition and shared experiences. So I'm just very grateful for so many people believing in this community and what I'm, planning to build. And people really like the idea, like literally someone on TikTok, because I posted about it on my TikTok finally like a few days ago, and someone commented if they can invest in the community brand. I'm like, sir, it's not a company. It's just a community that I just formed like a few days ago. But he was like I just really want to invest in it. I think it low-key is like a really, really good idea, and I think it has a lot of potential. And I'm like honored, I mean, I don't know who this person is, but I'm honored. And so I think there's just so many people who really like the idea of like, getting matched into a group instead of this like one-on-one situation where it can be awkward. So I think long story short, with what I'm trying to solve with Strawberry Matcha is getting rid of that tireless swiping on an app. It's just so awkward, right? It's like a dating app. The second thing would be to avoid those like awkward interactions of who should initiate the hangout first, who should initiate the conversation first, because Strawberry Matcha takes care of that for you. After you get matched into a group of 4 or 5 people, I choose a group leader, and that group leader, their responsibility is to start the group chat on Instagram and coordinate the hangout. And Strawberry Matcha also takes care of this cute little itinerary that I provide to the group leader, and then they can share with their group. And then, so basically their only responsibility is really to start the group chat and schedule the hangout. This just means a lot to me. And it means a lot to me because I came from a place of not feeling a sense of community for a really, really, really long time. So it took me a while. It took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of courage to get to where I am today and to be able to get out of my comfort zone, to start my own community in New York. And I think, I just feel very optimistic about this community. I think it has a lot of potential, and I think a lot of people just registering and leaving me supportive comments really validates this idea that this is a good idea. Like what I'm doing is a good idea. And Bumble BFF sucks. I believe in you. If you are based in New York or New Jersey, consider signing up for Strawberry Matcha. Try to join organizations, events, clubs, and, maybe even start your own community. You never know where it can go. And I wish you the best of luck, and you got this. You are not alone, and I believe in you. See you next week.